talking to Locked On Blue Devils JJ Jackson about this massive news this week. Coach Mike Krzyzewski retiring after this upcoming season, and his longtime assistant and former player Jon Scheyer will take over for him starting in 2022. JJ, let's just start with the obvious question, and people have surmised, well, it's recruiting and he's 74 and all of this and the new likeness rules and transfer rules. But JJ, this is a guy who's still putting together top 5 recruiting classes. He had a strong finish to last season. He can clearly still coach. He doesn't have any gray hairs. I'm not going to get into why not, but it seemed like he could coach for 10 more years. Why now?
It really did seem like he could keep going on forever. And why now has been the question that we've all wondered until Coach K spoke a little bit earlier today. I think it's time. It's time that Coach K felt like this program was in good hands, knowing the plan that was in place with Jon Scheyer, as you said, a former player and associate head coach on his staff, to take over and keep Duke moving forward in the right direction. And look, a decade straight now, Duke has always had one of the top recruiting classes in the entire country. And so when you hear Coach K talking about being honest in his recruiting, you've heard former players talk about how honest he's been in those meetings as well. I think he got to a point where he just couldn't honestly tell them, I'm going to be here for 3, 4, 5 more years. And now's the best time to be transparent with you. This will be it for me. The program will now be in Jon Scheyer's hands, and we'll move forward from there.
What do you think is in store for this final season? I believe it's, the 3rd or 4th ranked recruiting class, depending on the site. Obviously, the last 2 years have not been up to par. Last year, we all know what happened, and it seemed they got better, but guys are coming in and out. What do you think is going to happen in Coach K's final year at Duke?
It's kind of crazy to think about the last time we saw Duke in an NCAA tournament was in 2019 when Zion Williamson was lighting the college basketball world, the basketball world in general, on fire. And then had the COVID year, canceled the season when Duke had a really good team going into the ACC tournament that year. And you're right, Nick, this past year, things really struggled for Duke for a variety of different reasons. I think that this upcoming season is going to be so much fun to watch, with all the intrigue regarding Coach K's final year, not to mention Cameron Indoor Stadium, we anticipate will be back full to 100% capacity with a bunch of Cameron crazies, probably even more crazy knowing that K's going out after this season. But with that top recruiting class, with somebody like Wendell Moore as your leader of the team, an interior post player, and Mark Williams, who was excellent down the latter half of his freshman season, I think this Duke team has a lot to be excited about going into the next season.
Okay, and then beyond that for Coach K, it's hard to see him disappearing from college basketball and from Duke. He kind of hinted at some things today. What do you think his role will be in Duke basketball and college basketball? He's not somebody that we can just afford to have fall off the map in the sport right now.
For sure. And as he talked about, people wanted to make it about change, and the NIL, as we alluded to, and the transfer portal being as crazy as it can be right now. And for Coach K, I love that he pointed out the fact, I've been coaching for 46 years. I'm used to change in the sport. That's not the reason I'm going away. And I do think that when we think about college basketball, when you think about Duke as an institution, you think of Mike Krzyzewski first. So he's definitely going to be involved in the program in some form or fashion. I think when we get to hear from Jon Scheyer publicly for the first time as the head coach in waiting, he'll mention that he wants to have Coach K involved in the program moving forward, because he does mean that much to Duke University and Duke basketball. I just think it's a matter of time will sort of tell what exactly his role will be with the program.
We will hear from Jon Scheyer Friday morning in Durham, and those are some awfully big shoes to fill. Maybe the biggest ever in sports.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to think of somebody, Don Shula, maybe, Vince Lombardi. I don't know. I mean, it's up there, if not at the top of that list. So how does a 33-year-old Jon Scheyer with no head coaching experience, awfully good role as an assistant and top assistant at Duke for the better part of a decade, how does he fill that role?
That's the biggest difference between Coach K and Jon Scheyer, is that Coach K did have 5 years of coaching experience at Army West Point, whereas, as you're alluding to, Scheyer will step into the job with this being his first head coaching opportunity. But he's going to be the same age that Coach K was when K arrived in Durham all those years ago. And you talk about the legacy that Coach K has had at Duke. The shoes are so big to fill. I think most importantly, or the biggest reason, is because of the longevity. 41 years That's crazy to think about. Myself being a lifelong Duke fan and now host of this Locked On Blue Devils. My entire life, Nick, at 25 years old, the only thing I know is Coach K on the sidelines
And
for Duke
good
basketball.
Duke. You weren't even alive for bad Duke.
For sure.
Coach K.
I tell everybody that the last time Duke did not make an NCAA tournament was March of 1995. I made my appearance in the world in November of 95.
Now
So
you're making me feel old, JJ. Come on now.
up until this season, it was the first time that I had to watch an NCAA tournament without the Duke Blue Devils involved. And I'm not the only one. I mean, look, there's still 15 years worth of people that have been around while Coach K has been the head coach at Duke, spanning those 41 years. A whole generation of folks that don't know what Duke basketball is like without Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah, I mean, and Coach K alluded to it today. I mean, he kind of joked, like, I hope, I wouldn't suggest Jon Scheyer have the first 3 years that I did.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny, but like, there's not that much patience in college athletics and at Duke anymore for 3 seasons of losing and no NCAA tournaments. So what's the patience level for a 33-year-old rookie head coach at Duke?
Yeah, 17-13, 11-17, 10-17, the records for Coach K in those first 3 years in Durham. Not great. Those are not great years. And it's surprising when you look back at that. Like, he kept his job through that. Yeah, he did. And he turned into the greatest college basketball coach with over 1,100 wins. So what in terms of what kind of pressure is Jon Scheyer going to be under? Look, I think he's going to be, whoever took the job was going to be under a large amount of pressure because you're following gigantic shoes that Krzyzewski left behind. But I think that Shires going to do just fine.
JJ Jackson, you're going to do just fine, buddy. Thank you for joining us and talking some Duke basketball and Coach K. You can find JJ's work at Locked On Blue Devils. JJ, thank you, man.
Nick, I appreciate the time.